Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and this is the Asus Zenbook UX305. It's a thin, light, and affordable laptop. It measures about 0.5 inches thick, weighs about 2.6 pounds, has an all-metal case with a sort of brushed aluminum finish here. It's a fanless design, so there's no noisy moving parts on the inside, just the speakers down here at the bottom, and sells for $699. Now, there are a lot of thin and light machines that sell for significantly more than this that have more powerful processors. This model has an Intel Core M Broadwell processor. It's a 4.5 watt chip, similar to what you would expect from something like an Intel Atom processor, but much better performance, especially with graphics performance. In fact, the closest I found in terms of performance is I've got another 2.6 pound or more 2.5 pound 0.5 inch thick laptop here. This is the Samsung Series 9 Ultrabook that I picked up in 2012. This has a second generation Intel Core i5 processor that uses 17 watts compared with the Core M Broadwell 5th generation processor here that uses 4.5 watts. They score similarly in benchmarks. In fact, in some CPU benchmarks, I'd say that the Samsung actually does better, but in graphics benchmarks, this Asus Zenbook does better. So what's that really mean? Well, in terms of day-to-day performance, this model that sells for $699 has 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of solid-state storage. It boots quickly. It handles multitasking pretty well. I've had no problems doing things like watching videos. In fact, let's go ahead and open up a couple of YouTube videos here. And we'll put them in side-by-side windows. This has a full HD display. And you can see we're watching two videos simultaneously. Let's switch them up to 720p. 802.11 AC Wi-Fi. And sadly, these videos don't have a lot of action, but here we go. You can see those are both playing side by side reasonably well. Let's get to the point where there's actually a little bit more happening. There we go. Go full screen. So videos work pretty well. So for most day-to-day tasks, it works nicely. One problem that I have noticed is that from time to time, it's not happening right now, from time to time I have had the display driver crash on me. And that's happened when I'm surfing the web or doing other activities, watching videos. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen enough to be worth noting. In terms of design and finish, this definitely feels like a premium machine with everything except the backlit keyboard that you might expect. In terms of performance, it's not going to be as fast as something like the Dell XPS 13, which has a Core i3 or faster Broadwell processor. You can find benchmark comparisons at liliputing.com. That Dell model does sell for $100 more, but has a backlit keyboard. They get similar battery life. I'd say that while the promise with this model is that you would get around 10 hours of battery life. In practice, I get closer to 7 pretty consistently. It probably depends on what it is that you're using the machine to do. I've used it a lot for work, which means opening up maybe a dozen browser tabs at once, composing documents, writing blog posts. I am a blogger. I've tried a couple of other things. We've seen video playback here. Let's go ahead and try a little gaming. I'm going to plug in a mouse while I do this. It has 3 USB 3.0 ports, and first I'm going to play a game that should actually work really nicely. Doesn't have, very seriously heavy system requirements, but it's nice to know it works. Let's brighten the screen a little bit here, and continue the game. So we got a little point and click adventure going on. Loads quickly, everything plays smoothly, no problems. And you can also see the viewing angles are pretty good, and we've got a matte full HD display here, which doesn't reflect a lot of glare. So that's a game called Deponia. Now I'm going to try something a little bit more resource intensive. Let's go ahead and load up Batman Arkham Asylum. Okay. Mute while we do this. Allow access. Now it does have a fairly small charging cable, so this is it's not a USB cable or something like you would take with a phone, but it's not much larger than a phone charging cable. So if 7 hours of runtime is not enough for you, it's nice to know that that's an option. And while this game is loading, let's take a quick look also at the SD card slot, something else I wanted to show you here on the side. It's nice that it has a full-size SD card slot, but you will notice that the card sticks out quite a bit. So we've got plenty of built-in storage here, but you can use removable storage. You probably just don't want to leave that card in there when you're not using it. Okay, so now we've got Batman Arkham Asylum, and in this situation, let's go ahead and bring a little audio up, you'll notice that it's sort of jerky, sort of stops and starts a little bit here, and I'm having a hard time controlling the mouse. So while it does have similar graphics technology to that Dell XPS 13 with a Broadwell processor, I found that games like this, the frame rate is really just too low to be playable. So less graphically intense games, forget how loud that is. Less graphically intense games like Deponia, no problem. Heavier games like Batman Arkham Asylum, it's a little bit problematic. Also, I've kind of forgotten the controlling scheme for this game because I don't play it very often. Okay, space, double tap, evade direction. So, barely playable, I'd say. And I'm having a hard time even getting to the quit controls. So it's not a gaming machine, but it's a pretty nice machine for general purpose computing, for web surfing, for editing documents. Shouldn't have a problem using Office or other apps of that sort. I've used it for editing photos, for listening to music, for watching videos, and it works well for all of those tasks. It's just not really going to be up for bleeding edge gaming type activities. So you know, we've got access to full screen Windows applications. We've got access to your web browsing. Works well with Firefox and Chrome, as well as Internet Explorer. Comes with access to the Windows Store, and has that Core M processor. Now, Asus says that there's going to be a model that offers a faster Core M processor. This is the 800 megahertz version of the Core M chip. There's also a 1.2 gigahertz version, which should offer better performance. And it's not clear if or when that version will be available. It will probably cost more than the $699 starting price. But it is surprising how much you do get for this $699, including 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, full HD display. The sort of things that you might have expected from premium machines in the past. Nice touchpad, nice keyboard. One complaint that I have, and this is something that Asus has been doing on some of their later Zenbook series machines, is the power button is sort of right up here in the top row of keys, right next to the delete key. So sometimes I've wound up putting the computer to sleep when I expected to be hitting delete because it's the last button over there. Once you get used to using the laptop, it's not going to be a huge problem. While we're looking at this, you might notice it says audio by Ice Power, Bang & Olufsen Technology. Not something I really noticed. I think that's more for branding than anything else. It has speakers that are loud enough to hear, but you know, they're laptop speakers. They're fairly small. You're going to plug in some headphones if you really want high performance audio. There's a headset jack, a micro HDMI cable on the side, and if you wanted to connect an Ethernet cable, it does come with an Ethernet, USB to Ethernet adapter in the box. You don't need to buy a separate one. It does come with it. For the HDMI, you're going to need an HDMI to micro HDMI cable, but again, you don't need some sort of special adapter like you do with the Dell XPS 13. So, you know, in terms of comparison, I'd say that the Dell XPS 13 offers higher performance for not much more money, but this machine offers more RAM, more storage. You don't need special adapters to connect those sorts of peripherals, which makes it an interesting option for somebody who is looking for a budget machine that feels kind of premium. Now, $699 might not feel like budget to everybody. You could get a lot more computer if you bought, say, a 15.6-inch laptop. But in terms of a 13.3-inch full HD, all-metal, fanless design machine, you get a lot of bang for your buck with the Asus Zenbook UX305. You can find more details at liliputing.com.